Paul Watson, break down the latest information we have.
Hello, Alex. Yeah, the latest thing that we have is regarding this warning, this foreknowledge that the Indians had. And it was a specific warning of both the method in which the attack would be carried out, the arrival by which the terrorists would take, and the target, which was mainly the Taj Mahal Hotel. And this was the CIA station chief in Delhi who told Indian intelligence in September that the terrorists were planning to arrive by sea and attack the Taj Mahal Hotel with small arms and or bombs. So initially they took that warning seriously and beefed the security measures at the Taj Mahal Hotel. But then, strangely enough, as we routinely see happen in these major terrorist attacks, the security was then softened just a week before the attack. So you've got specific warnings about the method and location of the attacks, and the hotel relaxes the security measures right before it. Now, there are also eyewitness reports from people on the ground of police who, as these armed terrorists were running through the subways and the restaurants and the streets shooting at people, the police refused to shoot back. And that's why now you have these videos emerging of citizens who are forced to gang up and go hand-to-hand in combat with these terrorists because the police are nowhere to be seen. So, I mean, the question is, if these security measures were softened and if the police were not firing back at the terrorists, and why did the attack drag on for 2 or 3 days? The question has to be asked, was there some kind of stand-down order? Because the way in which India has exploited the attacks, which, as you mentioned, I predicted, it wasn't hard to predict because they always blame Pakistan for everything, but the level to which they've pushed it in this situation goes above and beyond anything. And they're obviously trying to blame Pakistan to deflect from the fact that they were given this specific warning and they failed, not only they failed to prevent it, but, you know, they let the whole thing drag out for days, and the sentiment has now started to turn. You've had a resignation of top official in the Indian government, you've got more on the way, and people are starting to ask serious questions about how they failed to prevent the attack and why they let it drag on for so much time. So then they've killed 9 of the 10 terrorists. There were supposedly 10 terrorists. Other people say there were 15 or more. They've got one.
And they always catch one lone patsy. One. There's always one left. This is following all the classic patterns.
They always got one patsy who, you know, sings from the same hymn sheet.
And he's the star. He's the one that paraded around in front of cameras.
Exactly.
It's also the star, again.
Azam Amir Kassab, who is a fluent English speaker. And as soon as they got him, he started implicating Pakistan. The media took it as gospel. Of course, they'd never, let's say, you know, he's a real terrorist. He's no kind of provocateur. The media took it as gospel, even after his interrogation.
They're also rolling out not one but 2 witnesses who just so happen to be fluent English-speaking movie stars, TV stars who play the part of terrorist or people fighting terrorists.
Exactly. So that it's strangely scripted. And so now he's saying his handlers were this Lashkar-e-Toiba group, which is ISI Pakistani affiliated. The problem being that Lashkar-e-Toiba always claim responsibility for their attacks. They always have done in the past. But in this case, they're vehemently denied involvement, yet he's saying that they were his handlers and that it's a Pakistani operation. So again, we ask the question.
Well, how this really works is they send in commandos, and we're not sure who sent them in. They kill a bunch of people, then they take their outfits on, put on their police uniforms or other uniforms. They slip back into the crowd, cover their faces, and then they bring forward the actor who years later will be quietly released. And over again they say, oh, well, we released the bomber because he was really intelligence operative for the CIA or Mossad or Indian intelligence or British intelligence. And this has happened over and over again, folks. It's just in the back of the paper. We arrested him to protect him and to protect his cover. Then they get plastic surgery, and that's the end of it.
Exactly. So as we outlined on Friday, the likely perpetrators are these gangs who are engaged in tribal warfare and have been for decades, basically. There's bombings in India every month. There was one last month of the embassy. There was obviously the parliament bombing a few years ago. And, yeah, the potential exists that there were provocateurs in there, and now with the propaganda and the way they're scripting it, it seems that could have been the case. But we asked the question, if this was sponsored by Pakistan, who have been making strenuous peace overtures towards India recently, unprecedented, then what would they possibly have to gain from sponsoring a brutal attack against innocent civilians, which was played out on international television for everyone to see?
Well, what did Heratz and the Jerusalem Post report 5 years ago? That's in some of my documentaries. They reported that Mossad and Shin Bet, the external and internal intelligence arms of Israel, created fake al-Qaeda groups with real Arabs, and in some cases the Arabs didn't even know they were being handled. They were just being paid. And they were being paid by Arab or Arab-looking and speaking Israelis to go stage bombings of buses and nightclubs every time there was about to be a peace deal, because the military and the private corporations that make their huge profits out of it all, the whole military state in Israel, they want the wars to continue. They want the tension to continue. They don't want peace. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's always the case in Britain, the US, or Canada, where you get these radical groups. In some cases, it's just gangs. It's just street gangs who are provocateured into talking about or writing crude plans about how they want to carry out terror attacks. And in every single case, such as the Chicago 7 in America, who were basically near retarded. They never had any capability of doing anything. They just wanted the payoff from the FBI agent. Same in Canada with the so-called beheading plot. Same with every single case in England of these, where they bust these terror cells. It always turns out that there's a provocateur behind them. But in this case...
Not just behind him. He's always the leader. He's the founder. The FBI, MI5, MI6, Mossad, Shin Bet, French intelligence, German intelligence, they're always led. It's not like an infiltrator got into the group. They can say, well, we've got to watch them. They always found it. They always find the unstable schizophrenics.
Right, they radicalize it.
They normally go off of city welfare files, because when you get on welfare, they make a lot of these young men go through psychological testing. They have files on them. And they'll offer them $100,000 apiece just to videotape a federal building in Miami.
Right.
Again, last Monday, Reuters, Der Spiegel, German intelligence caught attacking a NATO base, trying to blame it on the Serbs.
No, in this case, you've got obvious tribal warfare in that region. There are real terror attacks every month. In fact, there's one today in Pakistan, a car bombing, just completely ignored by the media. They happen all the time. So there are real terrorist groups in that region because there's real tribal warfare going on. But the claim that it's all being directed by Pakistan in the case of the Mumbai attacks, again, what would they have to benefit from the full might of the U.S. military targeting them? There's reports now that as soon as the attack began to unfold in Mumbai, despite widespread confusion about who its perpetrators were and what the motive was, that U.S. aircraft carriers, some of which were already in the region, but additional ones, were moving towards the Pakistani border. And then now you have the Pakistani troops moving from the Afghan border to the Indian border. So in the very first couple of hours that it was unfolding, these aircraft carriers started to move towards Pakistan.
Here's an example. In fact, John, try to pull this up. I don't think it was the last time. It was before the last time, about a month ago. I was on was actually the day after the election, or was it 2 days after? I was on Press TV, international Iranian television, and I went on there and I said they're going to attack Pakistan. They're going to stage an event to escalate a war between India and Pakistan, or at least a near war. That's going to be what Obama does. And there was one of Obama's advisors on the show, big Democrat, and he said, that's, but he just took what I said and spun it and said, yes, you'll have to deal with Pakistan. I mean, we're on record, Paul, calling it. I mean, that's another reason we know it's staged. Not just all the other evidence. There's hundreds of other points we're not even making here. I mean, I'm not trying to sound arrogant. I'm just giving you a fact here. You see the setups. You see the same manuals.